Everybody, peace. Welcome to the Sorry to Bother You show. Wherever or have you are listening, we're so grateful to have you here with us. As you guys know, I'm your host, Kashawn Cottle. I'm joined today, as usual, by my co-host, Mr. Dre Pennington.
Everybody, oh my God, it's so good to see everybody again. It's been so long. I feel like it's gonna be a great day. I feel like we have a special guest, Deshaun. How are you feeling about this?
We do have a very special guest, former Olympian, current peak performance coach, Mr. David Karasek.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Good to be here.
David, how you feeling, man?
Good. I mean, yeah, sunshine's coming out. I just told you guys after 10 days of fucking piss rain, it's a little bit of sunshine. Sounds good.
Nice, man. Nice. David, for those who don't know who you are, man, why don't you tell the people a little about yourself?
Yeah. So I was a swimmer when I was younger, and I kind of went through my life to make it very short, I kind of on autopilot. I wasn't really like aware of what was going on around me, and somehow I made it to the Olympics, and but very unaware, and I transitioned into the corporate world, and I couldn't recreate the success that I had in swimming, and I started to feel like a little bit like a victim because I was, my boss, I felt like I was, dependent on his mood and how much bonus he gave me, and I just kind of felt like a victim, and then somebody came around and he like started to wake me up to how powerful we really are if we focus on ourselves, and I got into the mindset side of things, and since then that's 3 years ago, and I've been so fascinated with this because when I just look back what's happened in those 3 years, I've been out of banking since, and yeah, I'm fascinated how much we can learn and how powerful we really are when we take charge of our lives. And that's like the story that I want to share with athletes. And I work with professional athletes now, so they don't have to, make the same mistakes that I did, basically.
Right. So David, what got you into swimming to begin with?
How they say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my dad was a swimmer, and I guess he just like took us. I have a younger brother and a younger sister, and he just took us to swimming, and we could try other sports as well, but I remember I was throwing around the racket in tennis when I lost the match, so I think they just figured it's safer if we go to the swim pool.
So would you say swimming just came natural to you?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess so. But you become what you become kind of product of your environment, right? When you're a child. I mean, not that I knew it at the time, but it's like, also in school I took Latin. I mean, like, who the fuck takes Latin these days? But I took it because my mom thought it was good, and I hated it, but I still took it. And then, I kind of went on and I studied finance, and I liked it, but it's not. I chose it because I had no idea what else to do. And my dad said, why don't you do that? And I was like, all right, cool. It's not that I really chose it. And that's what I meant, like, when I said I was really unaware and everything was on autopilot. It kind of worked out all right, and I don't have regrets. But I'm just saying I was unaware of what was going on and not aware of, that I could choose all the time. But, yeah.
Right, which kind of makes sense of why you weren't a fan of the corporate world, because when you're in that corporate environment, you don't really have a choice of what you want to do. You're kind of given an agenda, and they say do this, and that at a certain time. And if you don't fit that quota, then you can't fit the bill.
I guess so. Yeah, there's a lot of people that have to make that experience, right? They go, and it takes a couple of years. You kind of work up the ladder, and then you realize, all right, I want something else. This isn't for me, and
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, it happens.
But so Dave, why don't you tell us about your professional experience in terms of swimming? Like, you said you're a former Olympian, and talk to us about that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel really, really grateful because I could study and swim at the same time, right? When I was 19, I came over to the States, to the University of Virginia, UVA.
Okay.
Shout out to UVA. Yeah, that was, amazing 4 years. And I had a big mindset shift there because in Switzerland, swimming is, I I would say like seen as an individual sport, because you go, you compete kind of for yourself. You're like part of a club, but you get a gold medal or a silver or a bronze. And I came to the States, and all of a sudden it was completely different. All of a sudden you only score points for the university team. You have 70 people on the team, and the coaches and everybody is kind of pulling towards the same direction, right? And they all have one goal. And I just realized, okay, all right, I'll tell you a funny story in a second, but I just realized it cannot be like the team is going there and there's a Swiss guy just kind of like doing his own thing. It doesn't work. And that was huge, that, the people all of a sudden, they hold you accountable for what you do. And it was really beautiful. And that was a switch in my mind. And I'm convinced that's why Americans are so good in sports, because, I mean, the mindset around that is just really, really good.
Yeah.
So with that culture shock, like, did it take you a couple years or anything to get through, or was it just like a mindset that you just had to switch just immediately?
All right, so that's good. The story, what happened. All right, so guys, you have to understand, in swimming, you guys in America swim in the 25-yard pool, which is about 22 meters. We here in Switzerland, we swim in the Olympic pool, which is 50 meters, so it's more than twice as long. And what that means is, in America, in college, you have a lot more turns because the pool is shorter. And we swam this hard-ass set for 30 minutes, the whole team, right? And it was like hard because you weren't allowed to breathe in and out of the wall. And so I wasn't used to that. And it was 30 minutes of fucking pain. And I hope I can swear, hi.
Yeah.
And it was 30 minutes of pain. And I started to cheat because I wasn't used to it. I started breathing in and out of the turns. And then we finished the set. And the coach waited until everybody was done. And then he started shouting. He's like, Karasek came all the way from Switzerland and he thinks he's something better than you. So you guys are going to repeat the set. He's going to get out and watch how America does it. And I had to get out and I had to watch him do the whole set again. And then as, he was walking past me back and forth while he was watching the swimmers, and I was standing there, he was telling me, see, that's how you do it, you pussy. You pussy. And I felt so bad, like letting them down. And that light bulb really went off, and it never happened again. And I thought it was beautiful, though, because people actually care. And I just realized, okay, there's something bigger at work than just me. And that was really beautiful. And I was quite fast, to be honest.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I mean, Kashan, you've been overseas, like the mentality over there, like, didn't you also like spot differences in the mindset and all that?
I would say, David, that the biggest difference between America and overseas culture is that the coaches overseas are a lot more straightforward, I feel like, and more blunt than the American coaches here. Like, the overseas coaches are not afraid to really get into you. But that's because over there, as an American, you're held to a higher standard. So they have to hold you accountable, and they have to get into you because they're paying you 2 times, 3 times as much as the other players on that team. So they need to get, they're trying to get the most they can out of you. So from my experience, I was ripped into much more overseas than I was here in college. But I don't know what Dre's experience. Dre, was that the same for you?
My experience here, I'd probably say America to overseas. America, I probably had much harder coaches. Overseas, it was like the expectation, like you said, was way higher. So you were, like you said, you were held to a higher standard. So you had to perform, I think, just on the spot. Like, there was no time to get like acquainted with everything. Yeah. But that's how I noticed it.
The American superstars overseas.
No, but Dave, so after that situation, how did that affect your performance?
Man, it started to take off. I mean, like, look, there were times when we had a long Saturday morning practice and we swam like a lot of kilometers, like 8 or 9, and I wasn't used to that. And towards the end, there were some of the girls that were faster than me towards the end because I was so broken down I freaking couldn't move my arms anymore.
Yeah.
So, but you adjust, and that was a beautiful thing. It was like, because if you swim in Switzerland, at some point, sooner or later, you're gonna be like kind of the best in the club, or like the top 2 in the club, right? But then you come to the States and all of a sudden you're like kind of in the midfield. And just because of that you have people around you that are swimming so fast in training, it's like without even thinking, you're adapting and you're kind of being pulled up towards their level. And so, I mean, it was just beautiful, you know, like that's why, I mean, yeah, God bless America. I loved it there all 4 years.
So David, after college, is that when you kind of got into the Olympic portion of your career, or were you doing the Olympics during your career?
Yeah. It was from 2008 to 2012. That was the Olympic cycle. 2008 was Beijing and 2012 was London. I was in London. And at that time, I was in America. So it was perfect timing, basically. All 4 years I was in America. And the end of the collegiate career was the Olympics for me. And yeah, it was perfect. And actually, my swim coach, he was the coach of Team USA. So that meant, and we had 2 swimmers, you know, on the UVA swim team that won Olympic gold. And so that meant he was there in London and with all of us. And we had another girl swim for Lebanon, and so we were all there. It was pretty cool.
Nice. Wow. Well, what was that experience like, just being in London during the Olympics?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always saying like I almost like kind of threw up and before the race because I was really nervous because you know there's like all these like there's different call rooms. Usually you just have one call room, but there were like 3 or 4 because of TV, and they were checking that your clothes were okay and all the superstars were there, and it was just a lot. And I just kind of try to like calm down, and because I've been not in that situation, but in other important competitions before, and that worked out all right. And I walked out, and it was National Day of Switzerland, August 1st. That's the Swiss National Day. And I remember I was walking out and I saw, and you know, there were 10,000 people in the swim pool watching.
Right.
And that is, for a swimmer, that's a dream.
Yeah.
Because, you know, that is a dream. It was just a very good energy. And I saw my mom and my sister, because we got 2 tickets for the family, and they were there with the Swiss flag. And I saw them, and then I kind of, for the race, I blacked out. I don't remember anything about it. But I remember touching and seeing the time, and I swam a Swiss record on Swiss National Day, a personal best. And, you know, I was really happy. I was 27th, which, you know, could have been better, but I was happy because it was a best time. It was a Swiss national record, and yeah, that was good.
Seems like almost like the perfect storm, almost, with Swiss National Day, being the Olympics. Like it couldn't have been a greater opportunity. It seems like.
Yeah, man, that's what I'm saying. Like I wanted to go another 4 years because I was so motivated, feeling like so good. I got the Olympic tattoo on my back. But then I got back to Switzerland, and the swimming was different than in America. And after, you know, half a year, I was like, fuck this, I can't do it anymore. I'm just not having fun.
Yeah.
Right.
And
oh man,
can you imagine going from America where it's all, you know, 70 people on the team, and then you go back to Switzerland? And but then again, maybe I was just, you know, not powerful enough in that moment or I let the circumstances dictate my life. Again, it goes back to how little I knew, basically, right? Feeling like a victim and all that.
Yeah. But you touched on one thing, David. You said that you didn't love it anymore. And so that the moment you fall out of love with something, man, that's the moment you have to stop right there. Because it's no longer a joy to you. It feels like work. And so you would be doing a disservice to yourself. You were to keep doing that if you truly didn't love it anymore. I
agree. Life is short, hey.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, sometimes it's hard to let go because, I mean, and as an athlete, you know that, right? You this has been like your life for so long, and then you're having all kinds of thoughts like, what's mom going to think? What is dad going to think? What's the coach going to think? What's my sister going to think? What? So,
because especially as athletes, a lot of what we do is based on performance and results. So we're subconsciously used to our results, you know, are the results giving us approval. You know, it's like how we perform is how people perceive us, you know. So if we perform good, then people are going to perceive us as good people. But if we don't perform well, people aren't going to perceive us as good people. So we subconsciously look for approval and validation through that. But we almost break through, like you're saying, David, when we realize that all we have is all that we need. So once we have that self-worth and that self-awareness, man, we're able to kind of move forward and push through that barrier of knowing that, hey, we don't need the validation from anyone else. If we're secure with ourselves, then we can move forward. And those that are going to support us, man, are always going to support us no matter what's going on.
So how do we? So why is there so many athletes that are not aware of that? You know, like because you hear it again and again, right?
Yeah, Dre, what do you think?
Reason why I so many athletes that aren't aware of just like the self validation, I would say. You've just from kids, think about it. From kids, we've always heard of win loss, like you don't want to be labeled as that loser. So you've just been hearing that the whole time. When you don't accomplish something, you don't necessarily fall in love with the process of it, and you're just like you said about the end result. You don't understand yet. So I think it comes later on with mindset growth and just I would say just growth as a person. I would say that.
Got you. So do you think it's more like the teachings that the younger athletes are not having?
Oh, definitely. If you're not taught, like, don't worry about like the game like that. Like games are gonna, like, wins or losses are gonna happen regardless. But like, just love the whole thing, like the competition of it and everything like that. Like you're not taught. I wasn't taught that until later on. Until I probably got to college when I really like fell in love with just the whole process of everything. That's my experience with it.
But does shifting that mindset, does that affect your peak performance? What do you guys think?
Ooh.
Yeah, I personally think, I mean, what Dre said is for me, it sounds like right on the button. It's a lot of programming like that was going on at the young age. And when I work with my athletes, I'm telling them to not identify with the success and not identify with the failure, because they are so much more than that. Like it doesn't affect you as a spiritual being. Like you're not better if you know how to drive a car. Are you a better human being? Not at all. It makes no difference. If you know how to cook, does it make you a better human being? Do you have more value? Not at all. It doesn't matter. So like celebrate and go, like celebrate the success. If it's going like, crap, go through the emotions, learn from it, but don't identify with this. Because you're more than your failures and you're more than your successes. And, I think perspective in the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, for sure. So David, why don't you tell us about exactly the work you're doing with your athletes right now?
Yeah, man. So, I mean, when you look at the most successful business people and athletes and artists and parents and all that, what you find is that these people have a big dream. And so they have the big dream. And then the second thing is that they believe they can have the dream before it has happened. Like no matter what the circumstances and the current results are. And that's what we're doing. That's what, when I start working with athletes, so I support them in their mental game. And because for me, you can only be as strong as you believe you can be. You can only run as fast as you believe you can run. It starts in the mind. Everything starts in the mind. Yeah. And I work with them really to extract that big dream. And then again, if a tennis player at age 10 is telling me, I also work with kids, I want to win Wimbledon. That may sound like a huge dream, and it's unlikely that it's going to happen. And it's true. It's unlikely that's going to happen just statistically. Yeah. But you can still have that huge dream and work towards that. And then if you apply what we just talked about, that you don't identify with your success and your failures, then you have a beautiful road to go. But if you don't make it, maybe you end up 8th, or maybe you never make it, but you don't identify with it. You're just using it for growth. It's actually a really beautiful thing, I reckon.
Right. So the process in terms of teaching that mindset to younger athletes, do you use that same mindset when you're teaching your professional athletes as well? Yeah.
But you'd be surprised how few of them, a lot of them think like what's realistic. They're thinking along, just like in the corporate world, they're thinking, I want to be like 2% better, 5% better. And they already see, if I don't get sick, if I have this coach, if I get the funding, and if I get drafted or whatever, then I can do that. They already see how it's going to happen, but they don't allow themselves to really dream big, to have, Michael Jordan, he had the dream of being the best basketball player before he got all the rings.
Right.
So he could see that. Cristiano Ronaldo could see that he wanted to be the best football player, and before it has happened, right?
Right.
So so that's, and a lot of people, a lot of athletes, like even on the highest level, they struggle with self-doubt. They don't allow themselves to really dream big because they're afraid to, of whatever. It's just programming that we're not programmed to dream big, especially in Europe, I might add here.
Right.
So,
Go ahead,
so would you say that? Okay, my bad. Would you say that like some athletes that you work with, their mental fitness is kind of fragile in a way, and you kind of have to build on them, or do you have to break down their whole thing and like build it all over again and help them with that?
Man, I think what I'm teaching them is basically how to create the sports career that they love. And when you think of creation, like, look, what sets us human beings apart from animals is that we can create our own environment. Like, look around you, guys. Everything that is not grown by Mother Nature, the microphone, this water bottle, like the headphones, those existed as somebody's idea, as a thought, just a thought, a spiritual thought. And then with time, it moved into physical form. We can literally create our own environment, like the phone here. Steve Jobs, had an idea to create a freaking smartphone, and then with time, it moved into physical form.
Right.
And it's the same. Michael Jordan, he had a dream to be the best basketball player, and with time, he moved that into physical form. So we can literally create our own economy, our own environment, our own sports career. And that's what I'm teaching them. It's a lot, like, has to do with spirituality as well, because when you study these laws, you find that luck is not, there's no luck. There's no coincidences. It's all by law. And it's just that those laws aren't taught in school. We barely ever hear about them. Law of attraction. Have you guys heard of the law of attraction?
Yep.
Do you know what it means?
Yeah, it's basically almost like manifestation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Manifesting your thoughts. Because the mind is so powerful. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's really like have you ever seen a dog that manifests anything? Not really, right? They have the emotions, but they don't have those higher faculties that we human beings have. We have imagination, for example. And the imagination, I mean, what is it? It's literally the skill to look into the future.
Right.
Because how many times have you imagined something and then a couple of years later it's actual reality, right?
Right. So what are some manifestation tools or concepts that you teach your athletes for them to use?
Yeah, man, you got to do it every day. That's the thing. Like, and that's how I got the business idea. I was asking the athletes, how much of what you do is mental? And they say, 60%, 80%, 95%. And I asked them, what do you do every day to study the mind, to train the mind, and so on? And there was a long break. And so then okay, so you can't tell me that it's 80%, but you don't do anything. You're training to physical exhaustion, you sleep a lot, you try to eat right, you make the social sacrifices, but you have no idea how the mind works, which is like, as we just said, the most powerful thing, right?
Right.
And so what it is, it's repetition, that you write it down with repetition, because think about it. Everything that goes into your subconscious mind, you learn through repetition. Everything that you master, you learn through repetition in basketball.
Yep.
Like the shots, the dribble, everything with repetition.
Right.
And the mind is exactly the same. So what you do is, for example, you visualize where you want to go using your imagination, and you do that every day, because with repetition, you impress that image up on your subconscious mind, and then your subconscious mind will start to create that for you.
Got you. So you're literally visualizing in your thought process what you want to have happen to you.
Yeah, exactly. And you try to bring it into the present, right? You try to bring, because Einstein even said that if you want to attract something, like the way to attract it, if it's like up there on a higher vibration, is you elevate your vibration on that, and then you're gonna attract that. So you're with your thoughts, because it hasn't happened yet physically, but with your thoughts you can already go there. All right. And your subconscious mind, have you guys had that before a game, maybe the night before when you go to bed, it's an important game. All of a sudden, when you imagine it, your heart rate starts to go up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? It's like the subconscious mind cannot differentiate between what's real and what you vividly imagine. So you can literally already, if you imagine it well, you can already go there, and you can give that experience to the subconscious mind.
Okay. No, I like that. That's I never heard it explained like that before, but that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. Hey, there's a study done. Do you guys use visualization in your training?
Uh,
Yes.
I do as a form of meditation before I go to sleep, but not necessarily in my training.
I do before games, like how it was it who we had before. I guess who we had before, his name was Terrell. How he does it. I visually like see myself doing it in a game, and then I try to make sure I do it on the court.
Yeah, yeah. There was a study done in the. I quote the study a lot because it was done in a controlled environment with basketball players. And I don't know the skill though of where they were at, but it was in the late '80s. What they did is they took 60 players and they divided them into three groups. Okay, for I think 6 weeks. One group didn't practice at all, and they were only doing the foul shots, only the free throws, right? One group didn't practice at all. The second group was on the court for an hour a day practicing the free throws. And the third group was just at home and they were practicing in their mind for 30 minutes a day. Now, the guys, then they came back and they measured again, right? Who was doing best and who was doing worse. So the guys that did worst, clearly the guys that didn't practice at all.
Right.
But where it gets interesting is that the guys who practice at home only in their mind, they were better than the guys that were on the court. And the question is why?
Well, yeah. Why?
Because well, let's walk through it like together. If you were the guy at home visualizing it, how would you visualize it?
Making every shot.
Making every shot.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. While the other guys were on the court and they're like, oh shit, it's not getting better. Oh, damn it, it didn't go in, right? And the other guys make every shot and like 1,000 times. And then by the time they got there and they tested, they interviewed the guys also. They said they felt so comfortable because they have experience in making again and again and again. So, yeah, that was the study. And I think I also have a billiards player and he couldn't train during lockdown. He said he came back, he was visualizing for freaking 3 hours a day. Can you imagine? Kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And he came back, he said he was statistically better than before. Like he measures that stuff. It's a lot about measuring it. Yeah. And he was better after a couple of months. So,
Wow. No,
yeah,
I like
that's the
that.
power.
Yeah. So did you know about manifestation and how powerful your mind could be during your professional career, David?
Hell no. That's what I'm saying. I wish I did. I have no clue. That's what I'm saying. Like this is, some mistakes we all have to make, right? We have to touch something or with girls and there's things we have to make, mistakes we have to make ourselves. But there's a lot of things that I think when we have an experience and we kind of have an insight, a big insight, is something that we can inspire the next generation, the younger generation, that, they can say, okay, let me think about that. Let me see what he has created since then and be inspired by that and not make the same mistakes, I guess, and be more aware of what's going on.
Exactly.
Right.
When did you first learn about the manifestation process?
Yeah, 3 years ago, like a guy from the UK, he just started, he invited me for a tea, which I thought was weird because I was never been invited for a tea.
It's a big thing in the UK.
Yeah, but it was here in Zurich, But
okay.
anyway, yeah, so I went and had that cup of tea and he started like telling me about that everything that I'm thinking is subjective and it's not the truth. And I started thinking about his words, everything that I'm thinking is subjective and it's not the truth. And I was like, damn, it's hard to argue with that because I think he's right? And I always thought like I know quite a lot and I was vocal about my opinions and I started realizing I know so little and everything kind of has been programmed into me. And that's when it started to take off. I became really interested in that topic and never stopped basically.
Yeah. So would you say you're more passionate now with what you're doing in terms of, working on athletes, motivation and peak performance as opposed to your actual athletic career?
Yeah. No comparison. Like no doubt about it. No doubt about it.
Really? Why is that?
Yeah. Yeah, because it feels like that the learning here is there's an unlimited amount of what we can learn. Whereas back in the days when you're not aware of it, it's just it kind of felt like that there's a ceiling to it. And now I can see there's literally no limits to what we can do. I've seen, I have my mentors as well that coach me, and I pay them a lot of money too, but I see who they coach, and I see over the time what these people are creating with these methods. And I saw what I'm creating, like how my dreams literally in 8 months, what has happened. I'm like, if I can do that in 8 months, I mean, hopefully I have a lot more years here, but we can do so much once we start to realize how powerful we really are. And that is a really exciting thought, because, who knows what's going to happen. Hey.
Right. So where do you see your brand and your company being in the next 5 years?
Yo, look, I wrote something really nice. I read it to you what I wrote down. Okay.
Yeah.
This is an exercise I do almost every day. So I'm so happy and grateful now that we're 1,000 coaches strong in the Tribe of Athletes, which is my company, and that we serve and work with the world's best football players, fighters, and tennis players. I could add more. I just put these. Yeah. Every one of my coaches is a former pro athlete who's worked with me and had so much success with the mental training that this is all he or she wanted to do after their career. We're getting millions of views on our YouTube channel, and it's every athlete's dream to be coached by us. I'm traveling around the world to Champions League games and Grand Slam tournaments and UFC fight nights as a fan, mentor, and friend of the world's most inspiring athletes. I would love to work with the athletes that are going through what we do now, and when they're at the end of the career. If you take a basketball player, for example, right? He has all the connections. He knows the game. He knows the coaches. He knows the league. He has the contacts, and is trained in mindset coaching. You know how big of a difference you can make to like the younger generation that need help, man. It's crazy. That's what I love to create.
Gotcha. So you're writing down basically your future, what you want to have happen.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes I say it in front of the mirror. I look myself in the eye. Try that. Like for everybody's listening, or you guys try to tell yourself, I'm so happy and grateful. And you bring it into the present tense and you say something that you would really excite you. And you look yourself in the eye. You do the right eye, but you can try both. And you're going to see like this little, like in TV when it goes ding, when there's a fire there.
Yeah.
Try it out. It's like you see that freaking lion there. It's like, wow. And when you get emotionally involved, that's, like it's good when you get goosebumps and when you really feel excited about what you say and you see it in your eyes. Try it out.
Gotcha.
So I like how you talked about the mindset and how things can change, and especially how your career would have changed. So my question would be is, with the training that you're doing with most athletes, do you think that it can prevent like burnout? Because I know that's very prevalent, especially with people who are going into that from high school to college, and then college to being a pro.
Yeah, I tell you what I think is that when we do mental training and the goal is to become more aware of what's going on, right? And that means also to become more aware of what's going on with your own body, basically. And I can tell you, I have a friend he has this belief, this limiting belief, I'm not good enough, right? And we all have like some of them, I'm not worthy, I need to be perfect, whatever it is, it's different for people. But after the Olympics, he couldn't take time off because he thought, I'm not good enough, I got to go right back to the pool. And his coach told him, take at least a month off. We have 4 years to prepare the next Olympics. And, he didn't do that. He went straight back into training. And then it was a Monday morning when he completely collapsed. He had to go to the hospital. And that was the end of his entire swim career. Not an injury coming from like an impact, but like just his body completely fucked. Okay. Wow. It's completely done. So yeah, if we become more aware of what's going on, we start to realize, well, maybe it's good if I take Sunday off and don't go for an extra practice because I am broken down, and it's okay to relax and all that. So I think, yeah, it can definitely help. It's not something that I've seen very often happening, to be honest. But I think as we become more aware of our body, it's about awareness to see what it really is, right? And to then make the best choice on, what's moving me forward, what's serving me to not satisfy my ego, but to get me to where I want to go, basically.
So do you think those athletes they're refusing to take those rest days or the days off to satisfy their ego? Is that
Yeah, I
okay?
think so. It's like coming out of a limiting belief. Like I had that, like a little bit. I have the I'm not good enough,
Mm,
or I need to be. You know, if you have the I need to be perfect, you never get started because I mean you have the feeling you have to be perfect, but you know that it's going to be difficult to get something right the first time, so you don't try because you
right.
need to be perfect. That's like holding people back, but it's the ego that's like protecting you in that sense. And if you have the I'm not good enough, these are like the high achievers. They never rest, right? They're just more and more, and always, no matter if you're working 14 hours, you still want to do more.
Right, right.
You know, and then
Yeah.
it gets to a point where it's not serving you anymore. And I think if you have more awareness, you know where to stop. And yeah, so
Gotcha. Because that moment where you're not even putting forth maximal effort in the work you're doing, it's no longer viable. So knowing when you're reach your threshold, right?
yeah, man, right on.
Yeah. So David, what would you say is the biggest piece of advice you could give to any athlete, whether it be at the professional, collegiate, or even at the youth level? The biggest piece of advice you can give them.
Yeah, invest in your mindset. Like
Mm,
learn about it. Learn about the power of your mind, and just know that there's a lot of skills that school didn't teach you. And if you weren't lucky and didn't have somebody who kind of gave you all that knowledge, you got to get it yourself. It's kind of like if you're coming out of school, you have no idea how to make money. They don't teach you how to make money in school. You have to acquire those skills. And it's the same with the mind. You gather knowledge in school. If you're going to a school like I did, you gather knowledge, you take a test, and then you get a grade on that, and you think you know something, but you really don't. And I think that's something. So that would be my tip: to invest and to go out and be curious and find out how the mind works and
yeah.
study it.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Hey, Mr. David, man, we really appreciate you being on the show and talking with us, providing your insight. What we do after each show, Dave, is we ask if you guys want to give any shout outs. So while you're here on the show with us, Dave, is there any shout outs that you want to give?
Ha! Any shout outs? Not really. I want to shout out is to the people who are interested in the mindset. What I would say is, we have a cool course on confidence. It's completely free. It's a series of videos
Yeah.
that you can get on thetribeofathletes.com.
Yep.
And yeah, anybody who's curious, I would recommend, check that out and see. I always say, try it on for size. See
Yeah.
if it fits you. And if it does, good. If it doesn't, you didn't lose anything, but it has the potential to change your life. So that would be
Right.
my shout out for the
Right.
curious athletes out there.
So for those curious athletes, check out tribeofathletes.com.
Yeah, thattribeofathletes.com.
That's
Yeah.
tribeofathletes.com. Yes. Dre, any shout outs that you want to give?
Shout out to Brandon Rembert, one of my close friends, and he's been on the show also before. He's launching some new stuff, so go check it out. Brandon Rembert Clothing, B Rimby, shout him out. Shout out to the fans, you guys. This wouldn't be possible without you guys, and thank you, Mr. David, also for coming on here and taking the time to do that. Seriously, we really do appreciate it.
Oh, for sure.
You,
For sure.
you guys are good hosts. Thanks for having me. It was
Of
fun.
course, Dave. Of course. Shout out to the KRSN1 radio show. Shout out to the Lost Generation show, and shout out to the Tatiana Jasmine YouTube channel. And like Dre said, shout out to the fans for always supporting us. And Dave, and shout out to you. Thank you for taking your time to come talk with us today as well. Guys, we'll be back again next week with a new episode. Until next time, though, continue to stay safe, make smart decisions, and be vigilant. And until next time, guys, peace.